From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. The first strike at a major American meatpacking plant in decades appears to be unfolding in Greeley. And it's happening during a particularly tense moment for U.S. immigration policies. The workers at Greeley's JBS meatpacking plant voted overwhelmingly last week to move forward with the strike. The workforce there, which is made up of a large number of Haitian refugees, are pushing for safer working conditions. The strike could begin in the next few days. The vote took place within days of a ruling by a U.S. District Court judge last week that halted plans to revoke the Temporary Protected Status, or TPS, for thousands of Haitian refugees in the United States. Reporter Ted Genoways covered the strike vote for the Food and Environment Reporting Network and Mother Jones. Ted has been on the show before to talk about JBS workers and the tenuous status of many of the refugee workers involved.
This group has been living with a great deal of uncertainty through this whole process because the Trump administration vowed right out of the gate that they were going to eliminate TPS, not just for Haitians, but for a number of groups of legal immigrants. And so for this year, the people who are working at that plant in Greeley, the Haitian workers make up a huge number of the positions on the second shift there, the night shift. Mm-hmm. They've been waiting to hear what their status will be. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, they've been battling it out with the company over the working conditions and a number of complaints that they've raised about the way that they were brought to the company in the first place.
Yeah, I want to talk about what led to this strike vote. What conditions are the workers hoping to see addressed by JBS?
So the broader issues have to do with the speed of the line, mm-hmm. and resulting safety that happens. If you get a line that is running much faster than it typically would, you don't have the time to sharpen your knives. You don't have time to perform the cutting tasks that are required properly. And it increases the possibility of both repetitive stress injuries and also the traumatic injuries such as cuts and even breaks that can happen. And so the workers are very concerned about the speed of the line.
Mm. Now, Ted, you were there as workers cast their votes on this strike. 99% of them voted in favor of a strike. What might stop it from going forward?
Yeah, so I just first want to say that being in the room for this was such a remarkable experience because many of these workers have been waiting on a court ruling, expecting that their work status might be revoked on February 3rd, and knowing that they were going to hold a vote on a strike on the morning of February 4th. Mm. And to me, it's such a fascinating thing that as soon as the ruling for the 3rd was stayed, and they knew that they would have work status and would have the protected status on the 4th, they proceeded with the vote. The fact that such a large percentage of the workforce turned out and voted, and as you said, it was 99% of the workforce that voted to strike. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just the Haitian workers, but all the other workers voting in solidarity with them. And so this is a remarkable thing, but it seems to me especially brave because the way that this will work is that there's a brief period where the company has the opportunity to come back to the negotiating table. Mm-hmm. And it's unclear whether JBS will choose to do that or not. But there's a window of time. And in the meantime, the Trump administration is appealing this stay of the rescinding of the temporary protected status to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
And there's every reason and every indication that the court will allow the Trump administration to immediately rescind status. So we're set up for a situation where it seems quite possible that workers will be on the picket lines in a very public setting and very visible. exactly at a moment when they will be vulnerable to ICE detentions.
Ted, I'm curious, what did JBS representatives say about the situation when you reached out for comment?
JBS, they always respond when I ask for comment, but what they typically do is give a kind of blanket statement about being concerned for the health and welfare of the workers and adhering to the law. I think it's also important to bear in mind that JBS was the single largest donor through its subsidiary Pilgrim's Pride to the inauguration for Donald Trump. And so when we talk about, well, we're adhering to the policy dictates, one has to assume that JBS also has quite a lot of influence over what those policies are.
As we mentioned, the Trump administration has said it will appeal the TPS ruling to the U.S. Supreme Court. An administration official has said the refugee policy was enacted 15 years ago after an earthquake in Haiti and shouldn't have been active for this long. What happens to many of the workers in Greeley if the Supreme Court allows the administration to end TPS?
Yeah, it's a really desperate situation for a lot of people, especially the people who have arrived more recently. One of the things that I think is often kind of lost in the discussion about TPS is that, especially in recent years, the standard for being granted that status is demonstrating that there has been an attempt on your life. And so when I have interviewed people working in the JBS plant in Greeley, almost everyone's story starts with their attempted murder. It starts with someone it's showing up at their house and shooting them or beating them nearly to death. It is horrifying. And then their story is of the journey that they took, often coming someplace into Latin America and proceeding on foot to the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yes.
And then applying to be granted entrance. And so everyone involved, that these are all people who have survived these tremendous hardships and have applied through the system and have been granted entrance. All of these people, if they are sent back, they face the real possibility that they will be killed. And so, I think that is something the Haitians themselves seem to believe that the American people wouldn't allow, that we wouldn't have on our conscience. And I guess we're going to find out.
Reporter Ted Genoese wrote for Mother Jones about workers voting to strike at the JBS meatpacking plant in Greeley. There's a link to his story in our show notes and at KUNC.org. By the way, after we taped the interview, we received a statement from JBS saying the company has made the local union an offer that reflects its agreement with workers at other JBS meatpacking plants in the U.S. KUNC News will keep you posted on the negotiations. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.